Rex, thank you so much for joining me today. You are an award winner here at the National Association for Plant Breeding Conference in Kona, Hawaii. You gave your talk this morning, and your talk had virtually no text on the slides, just stories and photos. And I'm curious, why is now the right time to sort of shake up how we communicate science, especially something as complex as exotic germplasm that you deal with?
Well, that was a conscious shift on my part. After a while, I realized, you know what? I think we as humans relate the most to stories and images, photos. And so in my talks, purposefully, I've minimized the text I have, use photos, illustrations, and tell stories because I think that's what people remember. And when I think of things that I've encountered in the past, slides I don't remember too much, but the stories behind what somebody's saying, those I tend to remember more.
As the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award, you've got stories ranging from lost sweet potato lines to North Korean corn germplasm that you can't even make use of. I'm curious, what's the one experience that's changed the way you think about genetic diversity forever?
I think for me, one experience, or maybe a string of experiences has been my work with a private company. So before joining the academe, I was working with a private company for 9 years and in corn. And, corn is diverse, but it doesn't have the diversity that we have in other species. At least when I say it, not the diversity, at least the corn, the corn hybrids that make it to the farmers' fields. And I remember talking with a breeder, a commercial breeder saying, it's actually a question they wrestle with. We are coming up with newer and better versions of these hybrids, but it's basically the same genetics. And so he posed a question which remains with me today is, where's the new diversity going to come from? And I think exotic germplasm is an answer, maybe not the only answer, but it's one of the answers to that question.
I'd like to talk logistics, like from cold rooms to international access. Preserving and sharing exotic germplasm is kind of harder than it looks, right? What's the most broken part of the system right now, and how would you fix it?
For me, I have a breeder's perspective, and when I think of what is a broken part of the system, I think oftentimes you refer to germplasm collections as seed banks. Oftentimes they're seed morgues, meaning that something goes in there, it stays there, it's not utilized, and it doesn't come out anymore. It's a morgue in that sense, rather than a bank that we see as an investment and that pays dividends or interest, so to speak, and that we get something useful out of it. I think something that's a bit lacking today is collection is needed, it's excellent, but we need to find better ways of how do we get what is useful and what is stored in our collections. How do we use that in a way that makes it to the farmer's field and has a meaningful contribution to the crops that we see planted out there in a producer's field?
Now, you've developed marker-based approaches to bringing exotic traits into elite lines. Dwarf corn being one of them. That was pretty neat, something that you shared. What's a wild success, or maybe a failure even, you've had in making something useful off of something that's just like totally off type?
Well, I don't know if so the interesting thing is I was hired as a corn breeder at the University of Minnesota, but I was told, Rex, please don't breed any corn because the companies do a good job at doing that. So I'd say that from that perspective, I really don't have any wild successes. But I'm hopeful that in the next few years that I'd be involved in a success that would be really meaningful. And that's the work that we're currently doing at the University of Minnesota, a student-led breeding program in trying to adapt leafy African vegetables so that our African diaspora who are in the Twin Cities, they can grow these meaningful, culturally relevant vegetables that they crave. They can grow it in Minnesota and it'll mature in Minnesota and go from seed to seed so that they can save their seeds and plant them the next year.
Before I let you go, you're using everything from coffee to a special corn you bred called gopher corn to really bring the public into plant breeding, right? And to get them engaged with plant breeding. What's working, what's not, and why should the average person care about what's hiding in a gene bank?
Yeah, I think what's not working right now is more of the traditional approaches that we as breeders, as scientists have relied on. And this is, making fact sheets or, hey, here's a piece of paper about this variety. I don't think that's working too well. What's working much better is more of a show and tell approach, in my opinion, that, okay, I have this wonderful product, a new variety, or something that incorporates germplasm in a meaningful way, or just even some plants I'm working on, and then telling stories about it and the impact of that and why that's important and why that's meaningful to us. To me, seeing is believing, so to speak. And if we have plants that are nice, beautiful, attractive, productive, sometimes we just need to see them and believe the value that they bring to us.
Thanks so much for your time. Congrats on your award, Rex.
Well, thank you so much. It's a humbling honor. Thank you.